Hello, welcome to my channel. If you would like to see more F1 videos, please subscribe. So the first Grand Prix of 2025 is behind us. Australian Grand Prix was awesome, full of chaos, carnage and emotions. As it was probably predicted, McLaren showed that they built a rocket ship for this season, and if not for the rainy conditions, they would probably claim a confident first and second place. But of course it was raining, so it was not that easy. But one thing for sure, both drivers are in top shape, and Lando Norris demonstrated that this season might be his and he's ready to become a champion. But Oscar wasn't far behind for the most of the race, so he will be a contender definitely. Even though he lost his second place to Max at the beginning, he quickly caught up and was momentarily even faster than Lando. There were these weird team orders that were misrepresented during the broadcast because they said that they are not allowed to race for some time, but that was just when they were passing lap to drivers. But then they were allowed to do it immediately, but they showed it in a weird spot, and Zach Brown later confirmed it in an interview that yeah, they were basically allowed to race. And of course, because of the rain in later part of the race, everything became chaos, and from McLaren they both fell off the track at one point. Oscar more than Lando. Lando was able to save his race, but Oscar landed on the grass, of course. I have a theory behind why Oscar suffered more, because he clearly lost traction and couldn't get the control of his car. And that might be due to the difference in driving style between the drivers. There was this nice animation by Formula Addict on X, which showed direct comparison of the qualifying laps. And it showed that Lando would brake more before the corners, and Oscar maybe adjust more throughout the corner and carry more speed there, and that would explain why he slipped way more, and maybe then couldn't slow down enough, and then lost his car again in the next one when he came back from grass. But yeah, unlucky mistake and the rain, so stuff like that happened. Still solid race from both of them. It was really lucky that Oscar was able to reverse from the grass, which was not easy, and that saved Lando's race again, because it is suspected that the safety car would be deployed if he was not able to return to track, and then Max had an easy pit stop and would undercut Lando and probably take the first victory of the season. Especially that the difference between Max and Lando at the end was less than a second, so anything could have happened. Of course, Oscar scored just P9, which was not an indication of how fast the car was and how fast he was. At the end, he did a great and very impressive and fast passing of Lewis Hamilton in Ferrari to claim his 9th spot, which was a very nice showing as well. But of course, he was disappointed as it was his home race. So Red Bull now. Max, of course, showed that he's a machine. Still clearly a reigning champion who just lost his number 1 spot in the leaderboards after over 1,000 days, which is very impressive, but he's still in top shape, in top form. Car seems to be challenging though, but he can squeeze 110% clearly out of it, so he definitely will be on the podium a lot this season as well. It is of course not clear where Red Bull will land at the end in the Constructors' Championship, because it is yet again happening that the second driver is struggling with the car a lot, and it was clearly demonstrated by Liam Lawson's performance. He's almost a rookie. He never raced Australia, if I remember correctly. However, he showed before, even in the rain, that he can drive and he can be fast and score points. However, he struggled through the whole weekend, and yeah, something's definitely not right there in Red Bull. Of course, Max is clear number 1 driver, but what the hell is his driving style then? If like we got 4th driver now who really struggles with Red Bull racing car, and at this point I don't believe I'm the only one saying that at this point like not everything can be blamed on the driver. We got 4 very talented drivers: Pierre Gasly, Alex Albon, Sergio Perez, who proved that they can be fast and reliable, but they struggled with Red Bull racing cars. Of course, there was this pressure that they cannot match Max, especially with Gasly and Albon. But yeah, I bet something needs to change if they want to have two cars scoring points regularly. I wouldn't cross out Liam Lawson. Of course, it was a bad weekend with bad qualifying. He was much lower than Max, but maybe he just needs to get to know the car a little bit better. He impressed me enough, especially when he was replacing Daniel Ricciardo for the first time. So I would give him some more races to give a final judgment. I've seen a lot of people are not really liking him. But yeah, he's young. Let him be for now. I would just let him be for now. I bet with Helmut Marko in his team, he won't like in critics. Let's see how it goes. I hope he can improve, and I hope the team finally starts supporting the second driver as well. I think they tried it with Sergio Perez, and it was unsuccessful at the end last season, because they seemed to finally think about how to help the driver, not to just create the pressure that he will be replaced mid-season. But yeah, it's like, how many more drivers that would have to happen to that they will finally change something? Because basically the last driver who could compete with Max on a regular basis was Daniel Ricciardo, but then when he left, they clearly started making cars just for Max, and the other driver had to adjust. But let's see how it goes. I bet they underwent a significant change in their team, because they not only lost Adrian Newey, their chief technical director, but also a few more key personnel. For example, Jonathan Whitley, sporting director, left for Sauber. Will Courtney, head of strategy, left for McLaren, and Rob Marshall, chief engineering officer, is now in McLaren as well. But also Max Verstappen lost his chief mechanic, Lee Stevenson, who is now working for Sauber. So there's no way that it did not affect the team. So the situation within the team will be definitely something to look out for, and this season might give some indications on how the 2026 campaign with new regulation can unfold for Red Bull Racing Team. So there was a lot of chatter about rookies this season, and I don't want to talk much about the ones that crashed. It was obviously very sad to see Isaac Hadjar, who crashed during formation lap and then was really emotional and leaving for the team's garage, and was consoled on the way by Lewis Hamilton's father. That situation was weird because Helmut Marko, who is recruiting young drivers for Red Bull, for both Red Bull teams basically, said something not so nice about that. And then they recorded Isaac apologizing for his behavior, which was so weird. And like, of course he cared about what happened, and that reaction was just so understandable. Like, I don't know why they treated him like that. He felt obliged to apologize. Can't understand that. And especially that he scored so nicely during qualifying, was 11, just a little bit short from Q3 in the Racing Bulls. So he has huge potential, and I hope this doesn't affect him much. It was very hard conditions. I think the commentators were discussing basically how the lines in Australia are different from the ones in Europe, and not everyone is experienced racing there, so maybe that was just the simple mistake cost him his race. So I hope he can bounce back in China this week. Same for Jack Doohan, who crashed as well. Gabriel Bartoletto was a bit disappointing because he also crashed, but it looked as if it was not his fault and something broke in the car's rear suspension, which basically broke on a curve, and even before he hit the wall, everything was torn, and yeah, his race was over. But he showed really nicely his potential in the Sauber, which was not looking that great on Saturday. He outqualified Nico Hülkenberg, who's known for his qualifying prowess, often getting Haas last season to Q3, so that was very impressive. And let's not forget, Gabriel Bartoletto is a reigning F2 champion, so fingers crossed he will be able to show what he got and how fast he is next few races. Of course, this weekend is the one to forget for Oli Berman. from Haas. He had problems each session, which was quite disappointing, especially that he showed before that he can be reliable, especially in Ferrari when he replaced Carlos Sainz last season. But hopefully the whole team can bounce back, because their showing was weird, and they were definitely the slowest car on the grid. I don't get one thing, that they did not let both drivers test the car during testing, doing fast laps. They just were doing race, long runs all the time, and it didn't even pay off. Esteban Ocon was just before Oli Berman in the standings at the end of the Grand Prix, so there's something that's not working there at the moment. Maybe they will bounce back, maybe not. They never had cash to burn, so I bet they are mostly preparing for the next season for new regulations, and probably won't be working that much on this year's car. Hopefully they will have at least few races where they can score some points, but let's see how it goes. But of course there was one rookie that shone brightly on Sunday, Kimi Antonelli from Mercedes, who went from P16 to P4. Maybe he could have even fought a little bit more, but he spun once or twice in the race. But he finished before, scored some weird penalty which was later annulled after his team fought for his place, which was nice, and I was surprised that it actually worked. Usually the team appealing the decision was not that successful, so nice for Kimi. And yeah, definitely he was fast in the rain, did a couple of very nice passes, especially the one on Alex Albon taking P4 in a very high speed and very impressive. And he will definitely be a driver to look out for in the next races and seasons, as he's just like 19 or even younger. Definitely second youngest point scorer, I think, if I remember correctly. And with George Russell scoring P3, doing everything right in the race, Mercedes is co-leading the Constructors' Championship with McLaren. So two Mercedes-powered teams on top. Toto Wolff must be very happy about that. Australia was also great for a couple more teams. First of all, Williams, P5 by Alex Albon, the highest result probably in years. They had both cars in top 10 after qualifying, and the car looks much better than previous season, so they will at least be competing for the spot of best of the rest, if not even higher spot at the Constructors' Championship. They were unlucky with Carlos Sainz's crash. Something was wrong with his car, I think. And they had some weird glitch, which they supposedly noticed, which he was in turn a little bit happy about, that they can actually establish what went wrong. However, unlucky that he crashed because of that and wasn't able to race. But then he was Albon's extra strategist, for what they are saying. They showed a couple of pictures with Carlos helping the team, so that might be nice for team cohesion, and that they are actually working together towards a common goal, which is nice with no drama. And hopefully Williams can get back to fighting for podiums. They had really rough patch past couple of years, of course, so now with two strong drivers, they will definitely do much better. Fingers crossed for them. I'm really actually supporting them this season, so yeah, I'm hoping for as much luck and good performances as it is possible. Hey, but then we had P6 by Lance Stroll, who's been carrying the team this weekend, it seems. We have to acknowledge that. Of course, he had a lot of criticism connected to his dad owning the team and he being outperformed every year by the other driver, so people were not saying he's committed enough. On the other hand, everyone who was speaking positively about him from the team were claiming that he's very good in the rain and can perform in these conditions, what he demonstrated, and then recovering team's race after Fernando Alonso crashed. So it's nice change. I actually changed my mind about Stroll last season when he was racing with broken wrists, so he can definitely commit. I'm not sure how consistent that commitment is, but maybe this season he will finally outperform the other driver. But Fernando Alonso is a fierce competitor, so who knows. Definitely better showing that the qualifying and practices promised for Aston Martin. There was another big surprise with Nico Hülkenberg scoring P7 with Sauber, making this season already better than their last. because last year they scored only 6 points between all the races and 2 drivers, and this season Nico Hülkenberg already scored 7 points, so they improved already. Good for them. But the other part about that result is that Nico Hülkenberg by himself has more points than the whole Ferrari team, making Sauber the best Ferrari-powered team on the grid. And it is actually a bit sad because Ferraris were looking very promising during testing, and of course they have Lewis Hamilton driving for them this season, which was another thing to look out for, but so far very unlucky. I don't know if I can call it even unlucky, because the final result is basically due to the failure on the team side in a big part, because of how poorly the strategy worked and how poorly the communication worked there. And it is especially disappointing to see, because when Fred Vasseur got there, it started to look as if he got that under control. And because Ferrari was known for their bad strategy for a long time when Mattia Binotto was there, and it seemed that it finally improved last season, but then is back. I don't know what's happening. I hope they can improve on that, because they are just basically losing their chances to score wins or podiums. And with how it looked from the outside, that Lewis Hamilton was basically arguing with his engineer about some K1 mode. It was so weird. They seemed as if they were trying to micromanage the drivers, both him and Lewis Hamilton and Charles Leclerc. They should just trust them. They are experienced drivers who know what they're doing, and they just should focus on making strategy and decisions to help them. And even though they were providing as if too much information, they didn't provide the correct information. Like when the strong rain was coming, there was like this weird differences between both cars, what they knew, and they didn't know that even bigger rain was coming. Like that was a disaster. I hope they can improve that very fast, because it's just not looking good for them, because they are this big brand, the most successful team on the grid in the history of F1, and they are making those weird mistakes that should not happen. And it is especially disappointing because they were building up the first race by one of the greatest drivers in history, in his dream team together, and it was one of the worst results in a debut in Ferrari. Another thing to talk about with Ferrari is that they were claiming that they were setting up their cars towards rain in the qualifying, so that was their explanation for how they ended up on the grid at the start of the race, and it didn't translate to the result at the end. On the bright side, it might mean that they have much more speed in the car for the next races, but I hope they can take control of the strategy again and have a great season, especially for Tifosis. But Ferrari was not the only Italian team who had bad strategy. Racing Bulls also failed Yuki Tsunoda, who was racing very well during the whole weekend and started 5th on the grid, but then in the last part of the race they didn't change his tires fast enough and he ended up without any points. Let's see how it goes, because overall their car seems to be in a relatively good spot speed-wise. Yuki Tsunoda was 5th in the qualifying, Isaac Hadjar was 11th in his first showing, so they will definitely be able to challenge the midfield teams for the spot of best of the rest, at least, again. But I hope they can improve as well. Overall, this race was awesome. Peak F1, it was totally worth it to wake up before 5 AM where I live and watch and live comment it on X. I couldn't plan for a better race, so hopefully we will have an exciting season of F1 in 2025. McLaren seems to be very fast, but maybe someone else will be able to challenge them. If not, Lando Norris or Oscar Piastri will become a world champion, which is a nice change as well. For some reason I always want to root for someone who's not a champion already. So that's why I'm not too sad that they are so dominant. And anything can happen at the end. They definitely worked their way to the top after a very dry period. So let them reap the fruits of their labor for a bit, and then maybe we can talk about someone else going to the top again. And this week is another race week, so some more excitement as well with sprint race. Let me know in the comments who do you think will win there, and if there will be a big shuffle within teams. Follow me on X for some more live commentary there on the race and on every major session. I hope you enjoyed this talk about Australian Grand Prix. If you would like to listen to a couple of more of those, please subscribe to my channel. Thank you very much for watching and listening. That was fast. See you in the next one.